let's see if I can fit this in a few minutes. So last year, on October 22nd, 2023, I was in a pretty serious car accident. I was at work. I was on my last delivery of a night after a 12-hour shift. I was T-boned by a truck. I went unconscious on impact. I hit my head, lost consciousness. I don't really, for about 12 hours, I don't really remember much of anything before or after. The one thing I do remember very clearly is that everything went black, and then all of a sudden I was in a very beautiful field. There was trees on one side of me, and then all the other sides, it was just a never-ending field of tall grass and flowers. It was absolutely beautiful and so peaceful. It was the most peaceful and serene and just comforting and loving feeling I had ever felt in my life. And then all of a sudden my daughter appeared. She was 4 last year. She just turned 5, so she was 4 when it happened. She appeared, and she was playing and laughing in the grass. But I was talking to my friend about it the other day, and she was like, you got a glimpse of him and his world. And I always kind of believed that maybe that was my version of heaven, and that he sent me back for my little girl because she needed me. I survived that accident. I broke my neck. I broke a vertebrae in my spine, and I broke 3 ribs, and I was unconscious for a while. I had a prolonged extraction, which means they had to use the jaws of life, and it took them a while to get me out of it there. But I did survive. It was a long journey, a long healing journey, about 5 months. I was in a neck brace for about 3, physical therapy for 2. It took a while, but until a year later, and no neck brace. I can move my neck. I did get a 3% permanent impairment, is what he called it. So I'm not fully healed. I'm as healed as I will be ever. Like, I will always have a 3% permanent damage. Like, I can move my neck. I can pretty much do everything I could. But there's, I can't fully move it like I used to. It's not noticeable, though. But it is to me. But it's been a year. I survived. And, no, I'm very thankful for that. I've never been a very religious person. But, I don't know. I'll get more into that whole spiritual. I was on a spiritual journey when the car accident happened. So I still haven't decided what that meant, but I mostly wanted to share that story because I was on a spiritual journey before. I had just bought Joe Dispenza's books. It was a set of 3. And I was reading one of them when the accident happened. I was in a really good place in my life. Like, I was, usually I'm not. And I was then. I was doing better after reading the book. I was becoming a very positive person. I was very happy with my life. I was going through a lot of healing. And after the accident, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I was making all this progress, and then now I'm just backpedaling. Like, I felt like my life was over at first. My car was totaled. I was out of work. I don't know how long. I wasn't able to take care of my daughter. Luckily, she has a dad and a bonus mom that, were able to take care of her. But, she was very upset she couldn't see her mother for a little bit. Because I would have her every week. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then I just couldn't. But yeah, so that accident threw me for a loop. It really messed with me mentally and obviously physically. My car was totaled. I was broken mentally and physically. I couldn't really do much of anything. I was on bed rest for a while, for the first few weeks. It was hard to do anything, hard to move, hard to breathe. It hurt my ribs. But there was moments I was kind of like, oh shit, why didn't he just finish the job? Hit me a little bit harder. Because it was miserable when you go through that kind of trauma. You have a lot of emotions and feelings, and I'm very thankful I did survive now, but at that time I was like, this sucks. But things are great now. Things are a lot better. I've continued my journey of healing, and I finished one of his books, finally, Joe Dispenza's, and I've also bought a Neville Goddard collection book. I've been big into manifestation for the past few years, but I've never really stuck with it. Life always got in the way, like with that accident, you know. But after the accident, I feel like most of the time, I was a pretty positive person, kind of thinking like, oh yeah, no, everything's going to work out. It's going to be fine. There were times I was like, this is crazy how calm I feel after, you know, but there were other times I was a mess, crying, sobbing, like my life is over. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? But no, everything worked out, and I got a new car 2 weeks after the accident. Went to the car dealership in a neck brace. My friend brought me. He test drove it for me. I had no idea how I was going to get the car with no income at that moment. Besides, my only income was workers' comp. Not really an income. It was 2/3 of my income. It was not a lot at all. I wasn't making anything. I wasn't able to, you know, do much of anything with that. But I had got the check for the totaled car, and I was like, I was trying to go back to work at 2 weeks. I didn't go back till about 10 weeks after the accident. But in my head, I thought I'd be able to. I would at least, but my doctor was like, no, you cannot. You can't. So I tried, but he wouldn't let me. But I got the car because I thought I would be able to go back to work the next week, and I needed a car for work because I was a delivery driver. So I was like, oh, if I'm going to go back to work, I need to get a car now. So I got the car, but at first I was like, how am I going to get this car? I don't have any income. My credit was decent, but not the best. At first they was like, we don't know if we're going to be able to give you this car because you don't have really, it's workers' comp. But it took a few hours, and in my head I was like, I'm not leaving here without this car. I don't know, it was just, I was very determined that I was going to leave with that car. And not only that, but a few weeks later, the doctor was like, you're not healing. If you don't heal, you're going to have surgery on my neck. And if you know Joe Dispenza, he was in a really bad accident, and he healed himself with his mind. Some people call it manifestation. Some people call it praying. There's all forms of what it's called. His is more scientific, with your brain and having to rewire itself to heal yourself. So he did heal himself, and I also healed myself along with, getting the car and a lot of other things I've been able to do in the past year. It's officially been a year since the accident, so yeah, it's pretty exciting how much can change in a year and how far you can come.